Welcome to the Breakthrough with Chris Medellin, and I am here with a very special guest, my man, Chris Lee. Chris, welcome to the show, man.
Fantastic to be here, Chris.
Awesome. Well, I gotta introduce this guy. So let me first talk to you a little bit about Breakthrough and why we did a rebrand on the podcast. It's because through my journeys in meeting extraordinary people like you, Chris, I've had the opportunity to hear the journey that you've gone through in order to break through to the next level of your career. And, you know, there are all these breakthrough moments that we go through in life. And a lot of times, just before that breakthrough moment, there's something that happens. Either you're pissed off, you're tired, you're stuck. There's something dark that's happening right before someone breaks through, and it's a mental shift that happens to us in order for us to get across that next level. And those breakthrough moments need to be told. And so, Chris, I have to introduce you. You and I were meeting a couple days ago at a happy hour. And before I go into who you are professionally, I want to talk real quickly. You're a husband, you're a father, you're an Army vet, you're a badass altogether, Purple Heart, CrossFit level 2 coach. I mean, I don't know what it is you don't do, but what you did is you transitioned in the last year into an educator, and you are helping veterans build wealth through real estate and through investing in real estate. And this is remarkable because you entered the market when everybody was running out of the market, which is insane. But you closed over $20 million in volume your first year, and you helped about 15 veterans get into homes. And that's extraordinary. And as you were telling me, they didn't stop there. You helped these guys do something with their lives and with their veteran benefit that they might not have otherwise been able to do. And so when I heard your story, and I was walking into this new branch, I saw this amazing space, and I was like, we got to figure out how to do a podcast right now. And you were cool enough to just be like, let's go, man. So thank you for being here today, man.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. That was a great intro, by the way.
Well, so we are in lovely Honolulu, Hawaii, and the weather is amazing. This branch is amazing. And so, Chris, let's start off from the beginning. How did you end up let's start with you getting into the military.
Okay.
What got you to the military to begin with?
It's a really long story, Chris, but I'll try to abbreviate it like the wave tops, right? My father served in the Army. There's a great amount of discipline, amount of respect I have for my father. He was always involved in my life. He's a very silent, kind of stoic person. And then there's this absolutely amazing amount of respect I have for him and the discipline he built in me with all my extracurriculars and stuff like that. So, amazing human being, amazing man. My mother, an absolute unconditional support for our family as well. I always knew that he served, and I had goals and aspirations for other things when I was growing up as a kid. Mm-hmm. But 12 years old, September 11th, 2001, watch those two planes hit the World Trade Center, and immediately I knew why. Being 12 years old, you're like, you don't have that much hate in your heart, but you kind of realize that there needs to be people that need to protect those that can't protect themselves. And so it was weird because I lived in Georgia, right? Very, God-fearing, podunk place. Honor and your name is sometimes the only thing that you have, and a very wonderful place to grow up, a very wonderful place to make some of your best friends. Watch some of my history teachers, some of my friends' fathers, uncles, aunts immediately mobilize and deploy to Iraq, to Afghanistan. Watch them fight a war while we're living this great American dream. My parents are the product of the American dream. Blue-collar people, owner dry cleaners my whole entire life. I know the value of hard work, and I understand the value of sweat equity. I think very early on in my life, I knew I wanted to jump out of airplanes, kill bad people, and then and like protect those that need to be protected in whatever way I could. And I know that's a very like aggressive way to say it, but like, you know, I just wanted to be a ranger. I wanted to do the most for my country, and I felt like that was the most for my country. Fast forward, enlisted in the Army, airborne school, ranger school, a couple of deployments. Fast forward, the Army saw fit that I become an officer in the Army. Branched infantry, got to lead men in combat. Absolute wonderful opportunities in my life. Got to deploy for combat operations in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. Got to live all over the world, in Washington, Georgia, California, Germany, and now here in this beautiful state of Hawaii. I've been injured in combat, and it's one of those things where they were ready to medically retire me right there in Landstuhl, Germany, after I was recovering, and all I wanted to do was get back in the fight. So I know the value of never quitting. I know the value of trying to get back in. I had literally thought that the military was giving me my career, and I was going to continue to serve forever, or until they told me no. I met the love of my life here in Honolulu, Hawaii. Yeah. Fun little application on your phone. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Tinder.
I missed that whole generation of the Tinder generation. I missed it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We owed them a really nice letter. But
so Tinder does work.
Oh, Tinder 1000% works. So it's great. I was also very upfront. If you couldn't tell from the way I talk and the way I am, like I let you know what I want, need, and I very, very seldom hold anything back. And I just fell in love with this woman. Her name's Olivia. She's the mother of my wonderful son. But I knew I was going to marry this woman the second date. Like, really the first date, but like that second date. But she was going to be there to support me. Fast forward 2017. April 29th, 2017, my best friend in the whole wide world died serving for the 82nd Airborne as a paratrooper, leading men into combat, stepping on an IED, fighting a war that didn't belong to him. And his name's Weston. My son is named after him. My wife's idea. I love it. It's hard to like live up to that, and this kid is just absolutely doing it in stride. Weston passed away, and one of the most vulnerable things that I share all the time is obviously take advantage of the time that you have with your friends and family. And you never know when the last time you're going to speak to someone is. Literally, you never know when the last time you're going to speak to someone is. And I had so much guilt in my heart because of this moment. One of the last things I ever told Weston was, "Don't worry, brother. You know, we've all fought. It's okay. You know, I know you're working hard, but it's not like, you know, you're in that much trouble. I appreciate what you do. Come back home real soon." And I told him, I was like, one of the last things I wanted to do was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting out of the Army. I met the love of my life. I think we want to start a gym or something, you know, maybe a CrossFit gym, or, you know, do something cool." He's 4 years younger than me. He's following in my footsteps. And then he had a real talk moment with me and said, "Chris, that's the most selfish thing I've ever heard you ever say." And it hurts because I told Weston, I was like, "Dude, you have no idea. I've done my time. I've done what I needed to do. It's my time to get out." And he told me that I owed it to those men. I owed it to the people protecting this country, don't squander that leadership, don't squander that potential. This is coming from a 24-year-old young man. At the time, I was 28. I was like, whatever, man.
Yeah.
Fast forward like a week or two, and he passes away. We were able to respect him, honor him, memorialize him. He's buried in Arlington, next to heroes. And I try to live my life in that high expectation that he set for me. I changed my whole entire life after that. I said, I'm going to go be a commander. I'm going to do everything the Army asks for me until they say no. Successfully led 2 company commands up in Schofield Barracks. Got to do a whole bunch of cool stuff, like bilateral training exercises with some of our partner forces, deterring the aggression of Chinese government and Russian government. Absolute fantastic ways to lead men, preparing them for combat. And I loved every second of it. And then 2020, this pandemic happens. And I've been running, I've been sprinting, being a leader. For the first time in my life, I've had time to like spend time with my family. I had a newborn son, Weston. Mm-hmm. And for the first time in my life, I had like 90 days of just uninterrupted, no one bothered me, everything was virtual, everything was on Microsoft Teams or Zoom. And I got to truly value like growing my family for the first time. And like that moment, I realized and knew I no longer needed the Army, and the Army definitely no longer needed me. But my family needs me every day, and I need my family every day. And that was one of the greatest like breakthroughs and just aha moments I've ever had in my whole entire life.
Amazing.
And that was the longest like intro of like military type stuff I could condense it down to.
Normally I have to ask like 15 questions to get that all out.
Yeah.
But you had a cadence in the way that you told that story that I think that's exactly what this show's about. It's about, giving the listener an opportunity to understand how you got there, right? And really understand the psychology of a breakthrough, and you being 90 days. Like when you think about all the death, all the bad things that happened during the pandemic, and it's hard to look at all the bright side that came out of the pandemic, and you had a breakthrough moment that wasn't a career, it was, when I think about breakthrough, this is the most interesting thing about you. When I think about a breakthrough, I think about people who are stuck, who get unstuck, and then they skyrocket their career, right? And you may or may not agree with this outsider looking in, but what happened is that breakthrough moment came with you committing to your family in a different way. But through that, then you went on a journey to transfer, into a different career altogether. And this is a guy who was thinking, I'm gonna, go be a CrossFit gym owner. And now you're helping vets in a way that, there's a lot of really great lenders out there, don't get me wrong, and many of them work in this office. But when you approach a vet, you have a different mindset and a different way to connect with them than just your average loan officer who's doing a VA loan. Yep. So I love this breakthrough moment, and thank you for taking that. And by the way, guys, I don't know if I said this, we started filming we started going through this, and then we had to restart it. So Chris Lee, you can find him on Instagram under My Lender Chris. So please follow him, and you will see his gorgeous mustache. But he has amazing content as well. But let's get back into it. So you go to, well, first off, I got to go back because there's so much I want to talk about, and I want to jump into this transformation into being a lender. But before I get there, to the extent that you're comfortable with it, I want to talk about, you said you were injured and you almost quit. What happened?
In 2013, 2012, I was in a Humvee, not Humvee, but a MRAP. It's a large, very combat efficient vehicle that houses troops. And I was in an IED, improvised explosive device, accident. Just wait till that one. He'll cut it. Because you can probably hear it through the mic, right?
I see it on the mic. It's
Yeah,
hitting it.
it's probably good.
Yeah, it's picking up. Yeah.
Definitely gonna hear that.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
No worries.
What a crazy time that happened.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
And
so
so-
2013.
Okay, 2013. So originally got injured in 2012. IED blew up my vehicle. I was fine. I was like 100% fine, but obviously
Hold on. Gotta ask questions.
Uh-huh.
Where are you?
Afghanistan. Sorry.
You're in Afghanistan.
Yep.
So let's talk to me about that day.
Okay.
And I want to go through it. I mean, obviously, what month is this?
So this was early, like March.
Early March. What's the
yeah.
weather like?
It's freezing.
It's freezing.
We're in the mountains,
Okay.
like right above in something called the Tengi Valley, and then it's just a really shitty place. But this wasn't even the story of like when I really got injured. Like I got hurt, got cut up a little bit, and stuff flying around in the vehicle, and I was fine. But I had a concussion, which they kind of red flag you. Fast forward, this is September now.
So March, now you go to September.
Yeah, we were fighting all year round. So right around March time frame, every day our mission was to deter enemy forces away from this main highway, Highway 1. It essentially kind of went straight through Afghanistan, connecting Pakistan with India. And, it's a main supply route, a lot of vehicles. They're pretty much, these victims of opportunity, these targets of opportunity for Taliban to, insert their aggression, insert their influence in a negative way. And so our job was to deter that. Also was to deter indirect fire, which is like mortars, rockets, things of that nature coming into like the main towns and cities that were around Highway 1. I was the platoon leader at the time, in charge of 34 men, some of the greatest Americans that have ever walked this earth. We fought almost every day, close engagements, like very near, and then a couple of my guys got injured, and then I had some friends pass away from the fighting, and it's hard because you just get up the next day and you just keep fucking fighting. So it's difficult, but that's what war is. So you just keep fighting, and then it's like we always like look back on it and always like wonders like, man, if we were there one more month, if we were there one more day, it's like I don't think we would have been as lucky as we were. Fast forward to September, we had just finished this 10-day long patrol. It's essentially moving from one end of the town to the opposite end of the town, clearing these suspected sites where there's been enemy activity. We found caches of weapon systems. We found sensitive information. We found all this good stuff. Fought some, killed bad guys, killed bad people, and then continued moving forward. And then we're like literally about to leave. Like last day of the mission, we're waiting for like coordinates for our helicopter to come pick us up. Very large Chinook. As we're going up, it's in the dark. We have night vision goggles to help us move because we make large movements during the night. We fight at night. We were involved in a very complex, very violent, very concentrated ambush where there was an absolute ton of RPGs, or rocket-propelled grenades, heavy machine gun fire, and then it was very damning. Like a lot of us got injured. I was kneeling next to a building, and in my general vicinity, an RPG had hit and exploded near my head. I was knocked out unconscious, and then very quickly medically evacuated to the nearest facility to help me with the concussion and also the damning effects from the RPG. For the next couple of weeks, recovered there in Kandahar, Kandahar Air Force Base, CAF. And then from there, I was transferred up to Landstuhl, Germany, which is one of the best medical facilities in the world. For about a month and a half, I recovered there, and then finally transitioned over to Walter Reed Hospital, and then back to my unit after about 4 months of recovery.
Back to unit where?
Back in Fort Stewart, Georgia.
Okay, so you went back to...
I actually, like, my entire company and my entire battalion had... they all redeployed before I got back. Like they knew they came and visited me. I had friends and family come visit me up in the hospitals, and it was good. It was a very beautiful hero's welcome, for sure. And I just loved the fact that, like, the whole time I was recovering, they wanted to, like, medically retire me, and I was like, absolutely not. I was just like, I had to, like, prove over and over, and then I had competency. CTE was really bad back then, and then, like, the traumatic brain injuries, TBI, that you get from close proximity concussive explosions, it's very serious. And I had 2 in a very short amount of time span. It was like 6 months in between. You know, it's like a punch-drunk boxer, you know, fighting within 6 months of each other, and then
who would ever do
he
that?
gets Parkinson's. Yeah, you know, like, so it was kind of scary. I knew I was fine, but the simple fact that, like, I had to, like, really prove myself and really be on my P's and Q's about, like, hey, I'm going to trust the recovery process. I'm going to give my brain time to heal. I'm going to give my body time to heal. And then, you know, it was good. It was a weird time period too, because, like, literally 2 years prior, like in 2011, 2010, like, and not to, I'm never going to talk shit about the Army, but, like, they didn't really take care of their veterans and their war vets back then. Not when it was, like, really heavy fighting season stuff. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, okay, like, a lot of our guys are, like, killing themselves. A lot of our guys have these, like, undeniable, like, debilitating diseases because of how close they have been to explosions and have really messed up their internal organs, like everything. Mm-hmm. And then, so it was like one of those things. Like, I always thought I was too tough for that, and then I am not. I am definitely vulnerable, and I want people to know that you can be vulnerable, that you can ask for help, that you are not made of steel, and that you shouldn't be coated in Teflon. Like, you should accept and receive information like a sponge and receive help like a sponge.
That's amazing. Chris, when this explosive went off next to your head, and you immediately were out, right? You're passed out. You get medically evacuated. What was the timing of that? Because it's like you're in the middle of an ambush. Mm-hmm. You're out. Do you know how long you were out before you wake up and you come to your senses? Are you in a helicopter?
I woke up immediately, and okay. I was just, okay, we got to fight. So we fought.
So you kept fighting after this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you missed this. This is important. So
yeah.
And then how did you guys get out of this ambush?
Oh, so we had to kill them.
Yeah.
And then we found out very quickly that, once you run out of ammo, it's like it's pretty easy to win. And then so we had to hunker down for a while, fight back, and then we finally got the support we needed from our higher headquarters with close combat aviation support, yes, things like that. And then we were able to get extracted out.
How long did that take from moment to the injury to you're on a helicopter?
Probably a couple hours.
Couple of hours.
Yeah. And
what are you feeling? It just adrenaline pumping through your veins? Is this like you don't even realize that you're in pain at this point?
Yeah, I was like, I'm fine. I was just like, oh, I thought I fell down. Like I was like, oh, I didn't realize the explosion did anything.
Wow.
And then you're bleeding, and like you're kind of like, okay, I'm not like losing like huge amounts of blood or anything.
Yeah.
So you're just like, I'm fine. I am 100% fine. And then doc checks you out, does the exams, and then I don't like to really mention this that much, but like because I really don't want what happened to like be a reason for people to like second guess my opinions, but like I had post concussive seizures right afterwards, and like they were very tiny, almost like epileptic, right? And then like the smallest triggers of just like hyper focus and just hypersensitivity to things, and it was like a couple hours later, like I was on the floor in like a post concussive seizure, and we're all back.
Do you think this is all after the adrenaline wore out? You're in a
1000%.
different space,
Yeah.
and now your body's like telling you it's time.
If it would have been crazy, like if you had like a heart rate monitor on or something like that, or some type of vital signals. Like I know that's crazy back then, but like I can only imagine like how fast my heart was racing, like what the fight or flight response was doing to my body.
Yeah.
That just kept me focused.
And even through all that, you stayed in the Army for how much longer?
8 more years.
8 more years. You are a hero, my friend.
I appreciate it, man.
You thank you for your service. And you know, you come out, right? You decide that, you know, you go through this breakthrough, you know, moment where you say, okay, you know, it's time for me to transition out of the military. And for anybody who knows anybody in the military, that's probably one of the hardest and scariest thing that people do, is transition into civilian life. And, you know, tell me about that moment, because I'm pretty sure you had a number of ideas, and then here you are, you know, figured out a way to make purpose of your life and be able to build wealth for yourself as well, and serve, you know, the community and the military community the best way you know how. So let's talk about that a little bit.
I'd love to, actually. You're 100% correct, Chris. It is scary transitioning out. It is unnerving, especially like because you don't know what's on the other side. You don't really know. Like the last job I had before the Army was working at my parents' dry cleaners.
Yeah, so you almost went from like just extreme entrepreneur type of hustle, right, and grind, because that is a grind to do what you were doing with your parents, and then to go into the military, which is a whole different, completely different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're out, and it's like, what do you do? Like, what can you do for like it's crazy. It's all, I mean, and this is probably a really bad analogy, but the best way I could say it is like somebody who gets out of jail, who's been in prison for a long time and has to like transition into normal life. It's like you have all this optimism.
Oh yeah.
But is the world going to accept you, you know, the way that they should, right? And are you going to be okay with it? So tell me about this. This is so interesting to hear.
It's funny that you say like you analogize it with jail, because we make fun of it all the time. Like, you know, serving our sentence, you know, a 3-year, 4-year commitment or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, I extended mine to 14, but it's it's one of those things. Like, if people do become kind of institutionalized. Like, if I know a lot of people, if they didn't have the Army, they would have nothing else. Mm-hmm. That includes family. That includes like a social life. That includes like a personality.
Yeah.
People are one-dimensional that way. So I'm glad that they had the Army at least. But Army was, I know this is not the same story for most people. Mm-hmm. My leadership was 100% supportive of me. My commanders loved the fact that I had a plan. My commanders knew my potential. They did not worry about what I was going to do on the other side, because they knew that I was resilient, resourceful, and ingenious in the fact that I'd find something to do and be good at it and get paid for it.
Sorry to interrupt you, but is it normal that your commanders would be nervous about somebody transitioning out and say, hey, I don't know that this is the best time for you? Like, there's discussion about this.
There's typically like a selfishness, right? There's like, you don't want to lose your best leaders. You don't want that talent to go away. But if you're like genuine, and I had a good reason. Mm-hmm. I had a family. I wanted, I knew what the next 3 years were going to be. I was going to move 3 times to really terrible places. no offense to those who are stationed in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, or Fort Hood, Texas, or Fort Polk, Louisiana, but those places suck. They're not fun to be in, live in, or grow a family. And I wouldn't be growing a family because I'd be working like crazy. I knew what field grade leadership was going to be, and then it was going to take up most of my time. I was going to blink, and my son was going to be 5 years old and never have hung out with me because Daddy was always working. So, but with that being said, my leadership loved that I had a plan. I also gave back. I didn't have to take that second company command. I didn't have to be that servant leader, but I chose to, and I knew that the service that I was going to give back, they were going to reciprocate with me having that easier transition out than most.
Interesting.
So it was kind of like give a little up front to get a little on the back end. I did take advantage of an amazing program that the Department of Defense does. It's called Skill Bridge. The Army calls it Career Skills Program because they're difficult, and then they like to name things, even though there's a synonymous thing amongst all the other branches called Skill Bridge. It's essentially 6 months of uninterrupted internship with an organization that, as long as you can get it approved through your chain of command and through as long as there's no competing illegalities, you can't go and be a drug dealer for 6 months. It's got to be an official organization. They're going to teach you something. They're going to get you ready for that transition once you get out.
Yeah.
I had got a full 6 month internship working with Jeff Howard, a branch manager, working here at this wonderful company, and then I got to learn a lot through my mentors, like my loan officer friends and buddies, and they taught me so much. But I will say, that's when the mortgage industry was good. 2020, 2021.
You're interning during COVID time frames, just loving life, right? Looking at it you guys are all making crazy money, right?
Yeah,
It's
but
insane.
I'm like, you guys are making tons of money right now, and you're just doing. Granted, yes, it was hard work, but I was you can work harder. Everyone could always work harder.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just man, you guys have a lot of toys, you guys have a lot of free time, and you guys, it's okay, and just making stacks, right? And just okay, I finally got my license in November of 2021.
Oh my gosh! So for those listeners, that's right around the time that the market just starts taking rates start creeping up. We don't realize it's going to be as slow down as it turns out to, but by that point, November, you probably have another 6 months of a decent market, and then it comes crashing down.
I guess you call it decent, but people have established realtors, right?
Yeah.
So people have established businesses, partnerships,
Absolutely.
and things like that. And I'm trying to meet with young guys, young realtors, build them the way I see them. Trying to give them knowledge, inculcate that type of partnership from the ground up. And those that were late to the game getting a real estate license, well, they're watching their predecessors. Their business slows down, so they're not giving stuff away anymore. They're not co-listing anything anymore.
Anything, right?
They're absolutely not. Okay, they gotta fend for themselves now.
Mm-hmm.
They've become this. It got to the point where, as I only know the market getting progressively worse, and then so what do? It's you outshine the competition with customer service, because when the market's good and everyone's fat and happy, they become lazy, and it's so easy to identify those lazy ones, and then sooner or later your sins will catch up with you. And then that's when the younger, hungrier loan officers out there are going to take your business, because this market can't be sustained. We're already seeing improvements.
It's turned the corner.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely starting to pop again.
Oh yeah, and then
but you did all the work, right?
Yeah.
During the hardest year of the industry in the last 10 years. This last year was the hardest, and you still helped 35 people, 50% of them being vets. What what attracted you to do this type of work? I mean, what was the opportunity that you saw? And yeah, let's start with that. What was the opportunity you saw to be a lender after being here 6 months? You still wanted to come back?
So I was in the Army since 2006, and then I didn't use or buy a home or use my VA home loan benefit until 2015.
Okay.
Because all my leaders before that told me BAH is basic allowance for housing is for rent. You're only going to be here 2 or 3 years. Why the hell would you buy?
Oh my gosh.
Lee, don't waste your time. Like, I'm not going to give you time off to go house hunt. You go find the first apartment that's available and rent it out with your buddies. Roger that, sir. Roger that. No worries. Of course, you're right. Duh. Find a place on post. They'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would they lie to me?
Why would they?
They were just uneducated. They were just uneducated and a little bit selfish.
Think
right?
about the wealth. I mean, from 2006, right, that you would have built if you can go back and instead of renting an apartment, that you could use that housing allowance on an FHA deal that you could rent out the other side if you needed to on a duplex. I mean, what kind of wealth do you think you would have done if you would have done it that way?
I'd like look at it just in the simple fact of with the VA guidelines the way they were, and I could have owned 4 different properties in 4 different locations, had at least 2 of them paid off by now, because like it would all been close to military bases. They're not going anywhere. The names are changing, but they're not going anywhere. And like there's always going to be someone to rent it out because they have to. And back then, if you are departing residence, you still have entitlement over and over again. And then Purple Heart recipients, there's no funding fee. There were so many things that were like, hey, buy a house, Chris.
But no one knows this.
No one knows this, and no one told me this.
No one's talking about this, right?
Yeah, and no one told me about this. And then it was so neat because obviously a loan officer taught me how to do about the VA loan. Not a military, not anyone in the Army. None of my leaders taught me to buy a house. No one told me that I had this benefit. I just assumed I needed $20,000. I needed savings to put down. And I was like, well, I don't have $100,000, so I'm not going to buy a house. So I just assumed that. And that's what I've always been taught. Like, my dad never used his VA loan. He bought a house because he had saved for years, decades, to put a large down payment on a beautiful home that me and my family grew up in. And I was like, okay, that's how I know how to buy a house. I didn't know about these 3% downs. I didn't know about 0 down VA loans. I didn't know about investment opportunities. I didn't know about departing residence. I didn't know about rental property management. I didn't know about any of these things. But I didn't want that ignorance to perpetuate itself. So I got my first home in 2015. Loved it. Still living it. It's great. And then when I became a commander, this is that aha moment for myself that maybe I can do lending because I just gave a class on the VA home loan off the cuff, and I'm not even a loan officer. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about rates, but like I had leaders come in. They literally came into my organization, and they sometimes it was just them and their wife or them and their small family or whatever have you, and there wasn't enough housing on post for them to live in, so they had to live off post. I'll be like, okay, yeah. I was like, what are your plans to live off post? So we're just going to find the nearest rental. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, have you ever bought a home before? Yeah, sir. But, homes are like, here in Hawaii, they're like $700,000, $800,000. I was like, brother, you're making $3,000 with BAH. I was like, at that time, I was like, you can afford that mortgage. He's like, you want to do the math? So we do the math together. He's like, I'm not a loan officer, but you got to talk to one. I gave this company a lot of business well before I ever joined into the mortgage lending world. And I look back on it, I'm like, I should have got a referral fee. But I helped.
But you learned so much to that And by the way, there's a, I don't agree with, not paying people, right? So that's not my thing. But there's a rite of passage that happens for every, loan officer that's a great loan officer that started, whether they were an assistant or started off as a processor, and in your case, an intern, of all the things you did to get to where you're at.
Yeah.
It almost makes you appreciate it more.
Oh, yeah.
But it also helps you become a better leader because you now can say, I'm not going to do what I did to me to somebody else or what happened to me with somebody else. But it's a rite of passage. I mean, in fact, most of the things you learn is by mistake in this business, or all the times you get burned by not knowing something or not looking at a document or, scrutinizing it the way that you should. But I do appreciate that rite of passage that you did, because it's made you an amazing loan officer.
I appreciate that, Chris. And then, like I believed I am a tactical expert. Like, I know tactics, I know leadership, I understand that if there's a problem, I can solve it. No matter how complex the problem is, I can solve it. And then I used to inculcate that to my other leaders, my subordinate leaders, my squad leaders, my team leaders, my platoon leaders, my lieutenants, whomever. And the only time I ever got like a thank you letter or like, a phone call back of like, hey, Captain Lee, thank you so much for your service. And I never got that. I was like, Captain Lee, guess what? I was like, what? It's like, remember that house in Eva Beach that you made me buy? I was like, I didn't make you buy a house, bro. He's like, but I bought it. And then like, I'm really happy that I lived in it. My family was really happy that we live in it. I was like, that's awesome, man. It's like, well, yeah, obviously we're PCSing. I was like, permanent change of station, moving to another duty station. I was like, that's awesome, brother. Like, tell me more about that. And he goes, I just sold the house for $1.1 million. I was like, you did what? Yeah, I just the title company just gave me a check for $400,000 after I paid, my realtor and all this other stuff. I was like, congratulations, brother. I'm super proud of you.
That's well.
Yeah, he literally said that he's paid off all of his family's generational debt.
Generational debt.
Yeah, he got to build a home from the ground up in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, his hometown. Cash.
This is why you do what you do,
oh, yeah.
man.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is
And
why you do what you do.
And like, he was such a nice guy, right? And then, he gave me this like $200 Roost Chris. No plug for Roost. It's great steak, great restaurant, but a $200 gift card.
Ever.
Yeah, best fries ever.
Best fries
and
ever.
then he gave me that gift card and was like super appreciative. And I was just like, that's awesome, brother. He's like, and what's crazy is that like, he doesn't remember who his loan officer was. I was like, you don't remember who your loan officer was? It's like, no, but you're the one that gave me that education. I was like, kinda. It's like, yeah, I was gonna rent an apartment. Like, we were gonna live in a tiny apartment, but you told me to go buy a house, so I did. I was like, fudge. I was like, that's awesome.
But that's leadership. It's mentorship, and you think about like, you've had so many people under your command. You've saved so many lives, and you now have an opportunity to change someone's life by giving them the opportunity. So, over the last year, you went on a journey in probably one of the hardest markets as a new person into the business. Did you find, what was the mindset you had to overcome somebody saying, well, you're relatively new, Chris, to the industry. Why should I be using you? Like, did anybody ever say that? Or do you just, you're a natural, nothing about you. Like, I literally, up until we did this, you might have told me, and I probably went over my head because I didn't believe you, that you just got into the business, but you're helping so many people. You're doing it amazingly well. But one of the things I can read in talking to you is you're never going to do something that you don't understand how to do. So how did you overcome like objections, or did you just have enough confidence to get through it?
Honestly, Chris, not to insult our profession is not that hard.
It's not that hard?
It is not that hard. The rules, regulations, they're there. It's black and white. There's wiggle room here and there, right? If you have a problem, you can figure it out. There are people above you that can answer questions for you. I've never been afraid to ask. I've never had any humility in terms of like, oh my gosh, they're gonna think I'm an idiot if I ask this question. No, it's like if they don't know the answer, it's like if it's not readily available, it's not a stupid question. It's like if I can't Google it or and now ask Mello, I like it's really not that crazy of a question. And I have no reservations making a phone call. I had no reservations interviewing realtors that I thought would work with me. I had no reservations telling my story. I used to. And I know that, especially if you're a salesman, because at the root of it all, we're salesmen. I know that if you're not willing to change and you're not willing to grow, you're just going to die. And you're just going to, like, you can probably live comfortably, doing the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. Like those dinosaurs that are still doing from their sphere of influence, from their database or whatever have you. But if you're not willing to, tell your story, bring in, actual inquiries and bring in people that are going to pull you up and then literally talk about things that no one wants to talk about or answer questions on a regular basis, just being out there, being a good person. And then I just find it difficult because people like think of it as work. If you don't treat it as work, it's like, hey, my intent is to have X amount of veterans this year. My intent is to help out X amount of families this year.
How many vets do you want to help this year?
I want to do 60 transactions this year. And I want 40 of them to be military. I want them to be.
But you don't stop with just that. And I'm sorry, I bounce around a little bit, but you don't stop with just helping a veteran with just getting the mortgage. You've gone further on that. Talk a little bit about some of the things that you've done to help, your brothers and sisters with that transition and buying a home and helping them use benefits that they may not have known they had.
Oh yeah, especially those that are serving, active duty serving. Like a lot of them, this is like their second or third duty station, and it's crazy because they're just like me. First time they bought a home was here in Hawaii, so I was like, oh my gosh, you have a great opportunity. Well, if you didn't know this, you probably don't know about the other things that you have available to you. Did you know that you can get a grant that will help pay for your spouse to go to college while you're still serving? Did you know that you could sign up for online classes for free and get a bachelor's degree? Did you know that, hey, if you've served X amount of years, 6 years, and you're going to serve another 4 years, you can take your post 9/11 GI Bill benefits, which is free college, tuition and board, room and board, and give that to your child or give that to your spouse. And I can show you how. For my guys that were transitioning at the same time, and this is great because I have two great borrowers that were transitioning out of the Army. Both of them were in the Army, transitioning out of the Army. And I was like, oh, that's awesome, brother. It's like, have you, gone and done a VA claim yet? Department of Veterans Affairs claim for, compensation, pension, stuff like that. So, oh, nothing's wrong with me, sir. I was like, well, you ever been deployed before? You ever carried a heavy ruck? You ever had, weapons go near your face? By the way, we shoot almost on a weekly basis. So yeah, I was like, go get your ears checked. Go do these exams. If you get a disability rating, which is of 10% or more, which is very common, you can get your funding fee totally waived. And he's telling me, it's like, but we're already starting the loan process. It's like, yeah, put in the claim now before we close, and then that claim will retrograde back to its original start date. And I promise you, I'm not promising you, the VA is promising you because I read in regulation, they'll give you a refund of your funding fee. And like clockwork, it took about 2 months, but they got a nice check in the mail from the Department of Veterans Affairs for that 2.3% that they originally used as a funding fee. For a $600,000 home, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. That gets rolled into the loan many, many times, right?
Yeah.
So it's to get that check is like, here's what's interesting to me, because my dad is 100% disabled, Vietnam vet. He, I remember this distinctively, like right when he was going through the process, he had to go through all these, checks. He had to go through, he had to talk to like the psychologist and stuff. And in his mind, he kept thinking he was like playing the VA. Like he was like, I'm gonna get I'm gonna get disabled. I'm like, no, you're not. You deserve this.
Yeah. Oh,
you're not okay. These are things that you need to look. But he kept, and I think that there is a lot of pride in vets, to say they're vulnerable or to be able to say, I need to go get checked out. I have two brothers who were in the military as well. My dad is constantly pushing him to go get the test done, and they like push it off and push it off and push it off. And I just think like what you're doing by, using those benefits to also tie it into how you can continue to build wealth from it is hugely important, but you're also helping them with their health and their mental health.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't think, it's not normal for somebody to go through that amount of trauma.
Yep.
and come out walking and talking like normal. I mean, there's some, you know, mental things that happen, you know, post-traumatic traumatic stress, you know, syndrome. All those things have, you know, impact. But the fact that you're helping people is just truly amazing. So I want to thank you. You know, for those of you that are listening and are in, you know, Hawaii, Chris Lee is a loan officer, loan consultant at Loan Depot. He works. Where is this location?
So we're in Salt in Kaka'ako. It's right on the Kaka'ako waterfront. Wonderful place in the heart of Honolulu. Probably one of the most rapidly growing like little areas within Honolulu.
It's turning into such a cool little area. Like even the place we went to last night was just cool. You know, connect with Chris on Instagram. Again, it's my lender Chris on Instagram. Find him. He has amazing content. Chris, this has been an absolute eye-opening experience for me. You know, I love my podcast is really about giving somebody out there an opportunity to break through in a way, or get inspired to break through in a way that you did, and really, you know, touch the Chris that's out there, you 10 years ago. And I think you did an amazing job telling your story, and you're a very humbled individual, and I'm very blessed to have this opportunity to talk to you. And I wish that there were more people in the world like you, man, because you are an absolute hero, and I appreciate your service, and it's people like you that allow me to live the life that I do. So thank you very much, my friend.
Appreciate you, Chris. Thank you.
All right, brother. Thank you.